It ceased to exist in my 40s, so I'm guessing more of the same. What is sex like when you are old, 80 plus? Hey viewer, how have you been? It's been so long that we've done a story time together. Or not, depending on if you're binging my channel. If you're binging my channel, then you probably like the content, so give your boy Andrew subscribe, or at least a like. If you do, I'll send you some mango-flavored White Claws or Trulies depending on your preference. Enough chit-chat, let's start the stories. Anyone notice how nobody 80 plus is answering? Because they're too busy having sex. If you do it dogja style, each jab will have your balls smack her in the face. My 90-year-old nan used to tell me, you just have to use a lot more lube, gets dry down there lol. From what I can gather from this thread, 80-year-olds get more sex than the vast majority of petulant redditors. From what I hear, at least around where I live, sties are weirdly common on people over 70 because they decide to be super active at that age and don't wear protection. I don't see a lot at the home where I work, but there are a few more promiscuous ladies. Mostly old dudes asking the CNAs for favors or looking down their shirts or touching them inappropriately. I'm a male in my 30s, I get propositions semi-jokingly probably 4 to 5 times a year. I went fishing with my grandpa when he was around 84. I asked him, "Grandpa, when do you stop thinking about pussy?" He turned to me and said, "I don't know, sonny, you'll have to ask someone older than me." Don't know about 80 plus, but at nearly 70 it is still excellent. You have to adjust to the aging process, but with staying fairly fit it is still the finest free thing I was ever granted except my birth. I hope to be enjoying it at 80 plus too. Well, according to my mom who used to work at a nursing home, they are very active. Apparently they also had a residential pest there too that the staff had to watch like a hawk because he kept attacking all the bedridden women. They couldn't really do anything legally, though, to remove him from the facility because he wasn't considered mentally competent anymore. So yeah, that was a thing. There's a place in Florida called The Villages where many old people go to retire. It's known to be a huge swinger community with a loofah-based communication system, where the color of the loofah, usually displayed on a car or something like that, indicates the kind of stuff you're into. It's also known to have its own strain of gonorrhea. Edit to add. If you Google Villages loofah communication, you'll find a forum for The Villages. Very funny to read through. If you're both fit and healthy, probably pretty decent. At least, my 87-year-old great aunt and her partner of a similar age are definitely banging. A lot. She had a crap life with a very controlling mother and sister. Was forbidden to even date her whole life, although she probably did in secret, but having a stable relationship would have been out of the question. When her mom and sister eventually died, lo and behold, she's suddenly got a boyfriend living with her. Good for her. They totally bone like rabbits. They're both very healthy and spry for people in their 80s. Plus, she has a filthy sense of humor, then again, she is Irish. An older guy, I think he was at least 75 when this occurred, I used to work with once said his wife was very traditional, so it was only missionary for the most part. He said she had amazing tits though, and he always wanted to duck them. He bought a Tempur-Pedic fully adjustable bed for Christmas as a present for both of them. Next time she was in the mood he tilted her upper body just right and finally got to duck her tits while they were going at it in missionary. Fun story, when I was a college kid I went to my maternal grandfather's house. He was at least 80 and has always been known as a womanizer. I believe he was married about 5 times. Anyway, when I got to his house, he had a VHS tape on top of his television which said sex positions for hip pain, and another one, yes he had 2 that said sex positions for the elderly, so there you have. Grandpa was jetting it on with some help from his friends? My grandfather once told me that he kept a hammer in his bedside table so that if he brought a lady friend home, he could whack it and tell her to jump on before the swelling went down. I miss that old man so much. Ada, thank you for the medals. I'm glad Grandpop has brought so much joy to everyone today. He was an old coot who loved to say things to make your jaw drop, so I know that he's up there laughing his ass off right now. I work with the elderly and know of a few who use sex workers. It's a pain in the arse for their assisted living managers as you have randoms coming in and out. Danger there also is the sex workers would then give sob stories to get money out of one old man I know, and he would give away his pension and then have nothing for food or bills. One old fella I worked with had posters of topless women all over his bedroom wall, literally plaster-like wallpaper all over, and would ring sex lines and run up huge bills. Edited. Spelling, changed first mention from P-word to sex worker to avoid offense. Comment. I'm not slurring sex workers as a whole, but some I had experience with in relation to this role were causing issues for elders, including taking all their money, being abusive to neighbors in the supported housing, drug use in the building as a few examples. It's a bit of a work story. This happened a couple of years ago. I work in a nursing home senior community. One building is more medical focused, with your typical beds, nursing stations, and more day-to-day care. The other is independent senior living apartments with on-site medical services as needed for the residents. The place hadn't been the most up-to-date before my current boss was hired on, and part of the modernization process was installing a better web filter for all internet traffic for the company. This allowed us to block the usual work filter suspects, as well as make sure employees and nursing staff weren't idly watching Netflix and such and delaying care to residents. This filter in particular could show us, in real time, a log of sites and IP addresses being blocked. We got to the point where we could turn it on, flip the switch, and in an instant the log was flooded. Connections to porn sites, hundreds of them, scrolled down the screen. It made no sense, either tons of our employees were all watching porn from different sites on different devices, or something was rogue on our network. It slowly dawned on us that the filter wasn't just filtering stuff out from the employee network, but also the guest and resident connections. In particular, we narrowed it down to the resident network just as we started getting calls in from old folks around the facility claiming the internet wasn't working right. We ended up adjusting the settings afterwards, and the calls stopped, and to this day it remains a funny work story if you ignore the thoughts about dozens of seniors cranking it to Pornhub classics. Similarly to UDCJONES 2014, my mom worked in a nursing home and caught them doing it all the time. Best story I know of was this. A 101-year-old retired nun was caught with a 99-year-old retired naval officer by the nun's family. The family was so mortified that she had lost her virginity to this man and broken her vows that they sued the nursing home, and my mom was required to testify. At the hearing it was stated by the family prosecutor attorney that she, the 101-year-old nun, was no longer capable of thinking for herself due to her age and thus suffered from diminished capacity. She was therefore not of sound mind, and the home was liable. Defense brought in a psychologist who had given her a series of tests that showed her of sane mind. The clincher though was the nun's own personal recorded statement that pretty much recorded her as saying, "I got tired seeking comfort with my sisters 40 years ago and wanted to feel the touch of a man as a last wish to myself." Case was dropped and she had passed before it officially went to trial. EDIT 3. Many people asking about the family. If I recall the story she told my mom, her brother fell deathly ill and she moved into his home in California to take care of him in his final years. After he died, the family of the brother cared for her until they could no longer do so, thus putting her in the home. She began seeing this younger man about 6 months later and had been consistently seeing him for almost a year before being caught by the family. That is all I can recall as it was 30+ years ago. I'm seeing a lot of I work in a nursing home and comments, so I'd like to provide a different perspective. I'm a 36-year-old male, and I am sexually attracted to older women. The partners I have had or am currently active with are 60, 65, 68 and 72 years old. None of them are in nursing homes, and all but one of them, 72, are still working. I can't speak for every older woman out there, but a lot of these comments do hit home. They've preferred not to use protection. They might need a little more lubrication or a little more foreplay sometimes, but they love sex as much as any of us. Some might even say they like it more, but I can't testify to that. What I can say is that these are lovely, beautiful, vibrant women that laugh and smile and have amazing stories of their pasts and hopes for their futures. They aren't caricatures. One of them was married when I met her, and one of them widowed. One of them was very open about the fact that she wanted to be with a younger man, and one seemed to be quite shocked that I wanted her and kept reminding me that she was old enough to be my grandmother. When we were through, she didn't feel that way anymore. My experience with these women has been that they are a lot more direct about their desires and a lot more open with their love and sexuality. We can speculate as to why that is, but I'm currently talking to a 25-year-old lady who maybe, sorta, kinda, possibly likes me, and the runaround of it all is very tiring. Maybe that's because I'm getting older myself. Sometimes I tell these women they are beautiful or lovely or sexy and they smirk or say thank you, you're very kind, but it's a weird disconnect when you share physical intimacy with them and let your body do the talking, and there's no room for miscommunication, and then later you tell them with your words what you think and then they blush. Younger women tend to take those comments more in stride. Just an observation. So while I haven't had the pleasure of intimacy with an 80-plus-year-old, I can say from where I'm sitting that sex with someone who is older is amazing. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story time? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more story times.